So this is a challenging aspect of most any orphan care ministry. Okay, we've already talked about that you don't have to care for an orphan child in an orphanage. You can care for an orphan child outside the environment or context of an orphanage. We've already talked about the definition. We don't need to necessarily adhere to some rigid definition of an orphan child, but we need to serve children in need, right? An orphan child maybe that lacks proper or direct parental care. Well, I can tell you, you are going to be challenged by this thing, this element, which is called standard of care. So I've been to many orphanages around the world. We've got some orphanages of our own that we work with in conjunction with field partners. We support some orphanages that were established otherwise that we support in context of a field partner. And so standard of care is always a concern. Okay, and so I want to talk about a spectrum of care. All right. And then I want you to consider where you think that you want the children to be that you are serving. Does that make sense? All right. So you've got this on one spectrum. You've got this, and I deal with this all the time because I am from, America. All right. So we automatically project the level of care that a child should be similar to what the level of care is in America. Okay, so they should go to school. They should aspire to be an attorney or a doctor. They should be given a leg up if possible. We should support them through whatever education journey they might have until conclusion. Okay, there might be that sort of belief here within a family structure. Okay, so that is not usually appropriate in the places that we serve. Okay, it's just not appropriate. It's not practical. It's not realistic. Okay, now that doesn't mean that we should have some substandard level of care or expectation. Okay, so I don't want you to think of that. So on this spectrum, we've got this. Let's call it America. This warped vision of what level of care we should consider for our children. And then we have this other end of the spectrum that orphan children have nothing. And that's sometimes true. I've seen many children in many conditions. They have barely more than nothing. Okay? So you have this standard of care on this end of the spectrum, whereas someone might say that something is better than nothing. Okay? So you've got these two extremes. Now, I have had donors on this end that expect us to administer this level of care in the field. Okay? That is not appropriate. All right? And I don't need to state specific places. It's barely appropriate for America. It's not appropriate for America. I could give you many specifics that's even happening in the news now where you could say there's evidence that this is not working in terms of what we do for our young people in America. Okay? And this mindset that something is better than nothing is not appropriate either. All right, so you've got these two extremes. You need to decide what it is that's going to be imperative for a child. Now, I would ask you to consider these things, and then we can move on to our next module. But I would ask you to consider comfort and safety for the child. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to say that's a low standard, but I think that that's okay, right? I want a child to be comfortable. I want a child to be certainly safe, okay? So I think we should consider that something in our standard of care. We want a child to be in an environment where they're nurtured, right? So I think that could be something that you might place in your standard of care. We want our child to a child that we might serve, we want them to have a deep understanding of who they are, right? So we can put that within the context or construct of our standard of care. There might be a faith element in our standard of care, right? We want that child to know who they are in the eyes of our Creator. Okay, we want them to know who Jesus is. That could be in our standard of care. So I want you to think about these things. One of the most powerful aspects of our church mobilization initiative is that when places like Kenya, Zambia, India, Nepal, you know better how to serve a child than I ever will. So it is arrogant and inappropriate for me to tell you how to serve a child. I'm making some suggestions. These suggestions may not even be appropriate for your set of circumstances. But I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to ask you to pray as you discern what it is that God might have you do. But as you bless a child, as you set forth a standard of care and how you might serve an orphan child, I am confident that you will be blessed in return.